You have been excited to use Claude for your projects, but something feels off. The outputs aren't quite right, you are spending hours fixing things, and you are not getting the results you expected. Today, I am revealing the 5 most common mistakes beginners make with Claude AI, mistakes that completely undermine their projects before they even start. Most think Claude is smart. The truth: it is a lazy intern needing direction. You are just throwing words at a wall, hoping something sticks. That's how you get shallow, useless responses. Claude needs clear intent and specific boundaries to produce quality work. The key insight is this: treat it like a professional you are briefing, not a magic 8-ball. Every vague question guarantees a mediocre answer. Stop searching. Start directing. Imagine bringing a world-class architect to an empty field and asking for a door. They're paralyzed without a blueprint. That's Claude without your project's context. The insight is you must define the structure's purpose, limits, and foundation first. You are not querying a database, you are commissioning a unique, intelligent build. This frustration reveals a profound misunderstanding of the intelligence you are commanding. Claude operates on logic and context, not keywords. When you ask vaguely, the response must be generic. The core principle is this: precision in your request creates precision in the result. You are designing a solution, not pulling one from a shelf. You are wasting Claude. Stop asking, start architecting. You are trying to solve everything at once, and it backfires. The key insight is that Claude processes information sequentially, not all at once. What this means is a massive, overloaded prompt forces it to guess your priorities. Here's what's really happening: you are creating internal conflicts and noise, guaranteeing a compromised, confused output from the very start. You are essentially giving it contradictory instructions. The pattern clearly indicates that without clear boundaries, Claude must resolve these conflicts internally. What this means is you get a generic average of your requests, not the precise, powerful output you need. Every vague instruction dilutes the final result. This architecture forces Claude to guess your priorities at every stage, guaranteeing mid-tier results. The key insight is that by skipping the blueprint, you are surrendering control. Here's what's really happening: a single massive prompt obscures the critical decision points, and those compounding microguesses are what ultimately break your project. You must command the sequence. Most AI tutorials are wrong. Your biggest Claude mistake is starting here. Many guides suggest simply assigning a role. That's incomplete. You must architect Claude's entire reasoning approach from the start. The key insight is to define how it should think, not just what it is. This means explicitly outlining its step-by-step problem-solving logic, which dramatically sharpens its outputs and prevents generic, meandering responses. Now, this third mistake is the silent project killer. Without a defined thought process, Claude defaults to generic, internal patterns. The breakthrough is forcing it to externalize that logic first. You are not just giving it a task, you are dictating the precise mental algorithm it must follow, which locks in razor-sharp precision from its very first word. So, your project's logic is hidden. That's the problem. When Claude thinks silently, you can't guide or correct it. What this means is you must demand it writes every step of reasoning before any answer. The pattern clearly indicates this single act turns a vague instruction into an explicit, traceable chain of thought you control completely. You are wasting Claude's real power on the wrong tasks. Imagine having a brilliant architect sketch a masterpiece on a napkin and you try to build the entire house from that. That's exactly what you are doing. The first draft isn't the final blueprint. You need that iterative refinement. Without it, you get stuck building on a shaky foundation, missing out on the full structural integrity Claude offers. You are not getting bad results on purpose. The key insight is that Claude isn't failing, it's working with insufficient information. Without a structured mechanism to identify exactly what went wrong, you are left guessing. What this means is you must build in explicit feedback steps. That's the only way to correct course and get that precise, high-quality output you need. The pattern clearly indicates a one-and-done approach. Without a built-in feedback step, you are operating in the dark. Here's what's really happening: you are missing the critical mechanism for error correction. Your success hinges on that structured loop to challenge and refine every output before it's finalized. Implement it, or your project quality will always plateau. You are using Claude wrong. This is why your results fall flat. Your ambition is crushing your results before you even start. You think bigger project equals bigger win, but the opposite is true. That overwhelming, vague scope guarantees confusion, not a breakthrough. What this means is you are trying to solve 100 problems at once and solving none of them effectively. The pattern clearly indicates massive scope is the fastest route to failure. The project starts in one direction, but 3 feedback cycles later, you've silently pivoted. Claude is still working from that old, obsolete blueprint. The key insight is you are now arguing with a teammate who's solving yesterday's problem. What this means is every change without a context refresh creates compounding misalignment and wasted effort. Here's the brutal reality: you have already solved this problem. But without documentation, Claude does not know. It is forcing you to relearn insights you already paid for. The pattern is clear: you are rebuilding logic from memory while your assistant operates from an outdated playbook. That's not iteration, it is paying for the same work twice. Claude works best with clear context and iterative conversations. Break complex projects into manageable steps with specific feedback. Establish Claude's role and thinking process before diving into tasks. Try applying one of these fixes to your next Claude project and notice the difference it makes.